to decide the year-end world #1. That's an unprecedented situation. It's a very exciting day. I'm alongside Leif Shires, and we're watching Andy Murray warming up for this very, very special tennis match behind us. And I know you watched Andy walk out onto court, Leif, and of course everybody's wondering where he's going to be feeling physically. So what have you made of the practice session so far?
Well, he looks good. You know, he walked out here. He walked out here very slowly, signed a few autographs for a few youngsters who were asking for him and screaming his name. And of course, he's such a gentleman. He went and signed it for the young kids, despite
before
working.
the session.
Before the session was right here. It was really nice to see. And you know, you like to see that in a sportsman when he can acknowledge some of the fans, despite his head being very much in this match. He took to the court and warmed up slowly, and then started getting it up to gear. And he's one of these guys who, most of these guys are so good. He puts the ball in the middle of the strings every time. It has such a beautiful sound when it hits. And so he's in just a wonderful rhythm. And I think the question today is going to be the physical challenge he faces. Novak is a player who doesn't mind putting you through your paces.
It's been really interesting watching him warming up because he's only been out here about 5 or 10 minutes. As you can see there on the chair, Ivan Lendl giving some tactical advice and feeding in lots of information, as is always the case. But it's interesting how he's going to play tactically. From what we've picked up on this practice session, he's actually hitting the ball 1,000,000 miles an hour, and it looks as if he's going to be ultra aggressive because he doesn't want long, drawn-out rallies. Yeah,
and I think you look at what Lendl did to get over when Lendl was trying to emerge as a top player. He had to beat Jimmy Connors, and he had to get past Bjorn Borg and John McEnroe, and he had to find ways to do it. He learned how to chip his backhand. He went into a strong fitness regime, and that helped propel him to the top of the game. And so Lendl has ideas about tactics, about shots you need to hit. I think one of them is going to be, I'm pretty sure he's going to ask Andy to be a little more aggressive with his forehand, force the issue, build the point, which they do so well. And when you have your chance, you have to do something with the forehand. You have to try and hurt Novak, make him defend, and be selective, but at times come in and volley away some of these floating replies. It's something Andy does very well, but I think that's not his default mode. His mode is to grind a bit. So I think Ivan will be hoping that he can be aggressive today and find a way to win.
I mean, this is such an extraordinary scenario, isn't it? That the final match of 2016 with these two great champions, these two great warriors going head to head to decide this year-end #1. It's the first time that's ever happened in the history. It feels like some sort of movie scenario, which is exactly what Novak said yesterday in the press conference. It's like a scenario from some incredible film that's being played out in front of everyone's eyes.
Yeah, it's like they've scripted this so perfectly. The last match of the year are going to decide who gets to be year-end #1. Think of this. The last 12 years in men's professional tennis, it's either Roger Federer, Rafa Nadal, or Novak Djokovic who have been year-end #1. And Andy is part of the Big Four. He's part of this very elite group. And it would be so fitting if Andy could somehow wedge his way in between all these games greats and have his position established as the year-end #1. So I think Andy obviously has everything to play for. Having said that, he's up against the guy. I think Novak's 4-0 when they play indoors. Novak has the 24-10 head-to-head advantage. And
3-1 this year as well.
3-1 this year when Andy's having a great year, although they haven't played since Roland Garros when Novak won the career Grand Slam. So this match is so significant for both players. You might give the edge to Novak, though, I think, just based on all those things, although intangibles are something important as well. And Andy comes in on this amazing win streak, and that's something that Andy's got in his favor.
We focus a lot on Andy Murray because obviously he's practicing behind us, but of course we must talk about Novak Djokovic because I think coming into this event we weren't, or no one was really sure where he was at, more emotionally more than anything in terms of the tennis that he was going to put out there. But since he dropped that opening set to Dominic Thiem on the very first match, he's just built the levels, and suddenly yesterday against Nishikori he looked back to his absolute best, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a pretty impressive performance. And what can you say about this guy? When he gets in the right rhythm and the right sort of headspace, he's so good. He hits the ball so cleanly. He's so accurate. He does everything well. He doesn't really have many weaknesses, and that makes him a very tough out. Plus, he defends. He's learned to attack a little bit more. And when you do attack, he responds pretty well, too. So he is a bit like Andy. They're very similar. But these guys go back to the juniors. They know each other very well. And, it's going to be a couple of moments, I think, that are going to decide who wins this match today.
And also, of course, there's that little subplot of the coaches going up against each other because, here we have Ivan Lendl, who has played so many. I think he was in 9 straight World Tour finals, wasn't he? I think that's correct. And then, of course, down the other end of the court, you've got Boris Becker as well. And they met in finals themselves. So there's a little bit of a subplot in the coaches. And actually, Andy seems to have fared better against Novak when he's had Ivan Lendl in the corner.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think Lendl's been a big boost of confidence for him. I think Lendl beat Mats Wilander. He beat Boris Becker in an ATP World Tour final. And he beat John McEnroe. So he beat the best in the game at his time and established himself as the best. I think Ivan knows the significance of this match. He knows how tough it is to come through round robin matches and then take on the best in the game and beat the top ranked guys. So just having that familiarity and being so close to it, that's another one of those intangibles that you might give a slight boost to Andy.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel when you look at that, like you mentioned earlier, the head-to-head record between these two, 24-10 in favour of Novak Djokovic, won 13 out of the last 15, won in the finals of Australia earlier in the year, then of course that big match at the French Open, which both of them had never won the French Open before. Is there a little bit of a psychological edge for Novak, do you think?
Oh, yeah, no, I think so. I think that's very much a part of their matchup. Andy has to find a way around that as well. That this guy's kind of had his number most of their junior careers and then most of their pro careers. And not that Andy hasn't had some brilliant wins, but it's going to take a very special performance from Andy to get over that, because that's one of the biggest obstacles of them all, is when you look across the net and you see a guy that knows has your number. It's a little bit disheartening sometimes if you get down a break early. It's like, uh-oh, here it goes again. So Andy needs to make a concerted effort to try and stay in this one, stay close, and give himself a chance in each and every set.
Yeah, and every single match is so layered in its detail. It's not a simplistic thing of saying what the tactics are, because the tactics might change and change the course of direction throughout the match.
Absolutely. And plus, guys as talented as this, they're not just serving volleyers, they're not just baseliners. They play from all parts of the court. So if something's not working, Andy starts doing something, Novak is going to make a few moves.
You can feel what the opponent is doing, can't you? You can feel every single twist and turn.
Yeah, and this includes in between matches. When you play a guy in Roland Garros, maybe he's added a new wrinkle 3 weeks later. You have to recognize that and you respond to it. And this is why the training is so complete and so intense. I mean, these guys want to win. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, what do you think that Ivan has brought to Andy Murray? Obviously had that first time working together when he first won the US Open and Wimbledon and the Olympics, and then they had some time apart, and then they got back together only at Queen's on the grass courts this year. But when he's there, he seems to play his best tennis. What do you think he's added to his game?
Yeah, again, a little bit of that confidence, which I think allows Andy to think a little more clearly on a tennis court. Maybe he doesn't allow his emotions to cloud his focus and the things he wants to do out there. Because Andy's a very emotional person. We see it on the court. We see him struggling with that at times. But I think he's a little bit less emotional when Ivan's around, because he looks over the bench and he sees Ivan Lendl, one of the all-time greats, was probably the most emotionally secure guys on a tennis court. Maybe a few moments of temper, like everyone has, but Lendl was always there. So I think a lot of it has to do with the emotional makeup of Andy Murray and just how comfortable he can be on a tennis court.
Yeah, I know you keep having a good look over here. Anything you've seen differently in this practice session? Because he usually goes through all the straightforward sort of cross courts, down the lines. Jamie will probably start feeding him from one-off balls for him to practice those passing shots. But have you noticed anything in particular?
Yeah, I mean, I think almost every forehand he's getting, he's trying to add a little more, miles per hour to it, a little more juice. And I think that's a reminder that he needs to get out of his default mold, which is to make the balls and take a little more risk and try and hit a few more good shots. So I think that's part of what he's trying to do out there.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a couple of questions.
Got some comments, got a lot of come on Murray. Ryan says Andy Murray to win in 3 sets, but it'll be tough. AJ, go Murray, get that number 1.
Plenty of support. 6 o'clock UK time. We're looking forward to it. So this is quite early practice.
I mean, before we even started the tournament, I picked Andy Murray, and
now you've changed.
No, I'm still Andy Murray.
Okay.
I still think Murray's got a shot, and he's going to have to play. I just feel he's got this amazing win streak, and he has, again, a few intangibles working his way that could make a difference. Novak, despite winning impressively against Nishikori, I still feel there are a few doubts banging around in there. So I'm still going to go with Murray, and just for what it's worth, my wife also picks occasionally winners. She picked Andy Murray, and we were together, Marie and I, in San Jose when Andy won his first title in Northern California, and he beat Leighton Hewitt in the championship match. And I remember we met Andy and Kim in the Players Lounge, and they were around all week, and we really liked them. We thought they were going to be great. And Maria said, he's not only going to be a champion, but he's going to win the tournament this week. And he did. So the fact that Maria's picked him, maybe.
It's an omen. Actually, talking of wives, Jelena Djokovic turned up yesterday, which we hadn't seen her here all week. I think that surprised many people. We all thought she was at home with their child Stefan. But good to see her in the support camp. And I think he also plays a little bit better when she's there.
I agree. I think it's another layer of support behind you. You know, tennis players are stranded out there all alone on an island, but really, tennis players understand how much goes on behind them and how much friends and family they have supporting them. So I think that's good for Novak. He's pulling out all the stops to get the number one.
He certainly is. Well, it's going to be an absolutely fabulous day. We can't wait. There's already a build-up of atmosphere. You can probably see around the O2 Arena. We've got plenty of fans who have... Actually, they have to have a special ticket to get in early. I know that some of them that have tickets can't even come in here. The stewards don't allow them in until a certain time, but a number of them who have a special ticket are in early to see this preparation and warm-up. So
and when Andy came in, actually, he got a really nice ovation from the people who were here. It's a very small group, yes, but it was a very warm sort of, oh, come on, Andy, great to see you, you know.
Well, he is so much more popular than he was when he first played here. He's got bigger ovations generally, hasn't he, when he made it out onto court. I have to say, even in terms of us following the tour, this is a very, very special day, and we are so looking forward to it.
This might be one of the biggest things we've ever seen together. I mean, what a moment.
I think so.